And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another Mind, Body, and Spirit development class. For those of you that don't know, my name is Matt, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've had this YouTube channel since 2015. And since we're coming up on the 10-year mark, is why I've started doing these class. Now it's taken me a really long time to figure it all out and to really like develop an idea or some kind of like niche. Because everybody's out there, doing the same thing, and people have gotten to the point now where they're starting to come up on social media fatigue, or not social media so much, but just social media entertainment in general. I think. I think what's great about these platforms is that I can easily put my own spin on whatever niche that I'm trying to promote, which is really cool. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into love and fear. Now, you might be thinking, what does one have to do with the other? Well, they're both very they both work hand in hand. Or I shouldn't say that they both work hand in hand, but if you don't have love in your heart, if you don't have the capability of loving, or if you've never been loved, well, then your tendency is to go towards being fearful, being closed off, keeping yourself in this box or this echo chamber, just to keep yourself safe. I mean, think about a scorpion, right? Scorpions don't really go out of their way to try and hurt people. They don't really go out of their way to sting you. It's like if you poke it, or if you try to, if you go out of your way to find it, and if you're bothering it, it's probably going to sting you, and you will probably die. Scorpions like to stay in their own area, right behind. It's usually like a boulder, or sometimes they'll wander out at sea, but they just don't want anybody to bother them. And why? Because they don't really trust anything outside of where they are. They don't trust a human being. They don't trust an animal. I don't even think that they trust other scorpions. It's not that the scorpion has never been loved. It's just by nature that's how they are. But human beings are not that much different, especially if you grew up in a loveless environment, or maybe you have this sort of convoluted idea of what love is, thanks to your parents. Your parents didn't really bring you up in a truly loving household, right? They didn't really they didn't show you. They would tell you that they love you, right? They may even kiss you goodnight and say, "Goodnight, Mark," or "Goodnight, Christy, I love you." And they probably do that up until you're 8 years old, because I think still kissing your kids after 8 years old is a little weird. But they might have told you that they love you. they might have been there. But then when the sun rises and it's time for you to get up and go to school, then it changes, right? Because maybe your parents, you know, they go to work, and you know they're dealing with people, and they have to put up with their coworkers or their boss, and they grew up in a loveless environment, and because of that, they might come home from a really hard day of work and start to take out their hard day first on their spouse, but then their children afterwards. And as a kid, you might be looking at that and going, but wait a minute, I thought my dad told me that he loved me. And you might ask him, Dad, I thought you loved me. Why are you treating me this way? Why are you being mean to me? Why are you yelling at me? Why are you screaming at me? Why are you hitting me? You know, why are you calling me names? Why are you calling me a failure? You know, why aren't you showing up to my football games? Why aren't you, you know, why don't you ever want to spend any time with me? But you say that you love me, right? And if you're a father or if you're a mother, what do you say to that? Do you just brush that off because they're children, they don't know what they're talking about, or do you just carry on with what you've always been doing? But make no mistake, your children are not going to just turn 18, become an adult, and then move on from that. They might get out of the house. They might go off to school somewhere. They might get into some kind of trade. They might get their own apartment, but they're going to carry that with them for the rest of their life. And so, if you grew up like that, chances are you have a very twisted perspective on what love is, and so you don't know how to show it, and you don't know how to receive it, and that's most people, unfortunately. I think that's largely in part due to the fact that we can't ever just have any nuance. We can't ever just compromise. And I don't mean compromise in a negative way. I mean compromise in terms of, hey, we need to find some kind of middle ground here that works. And, you know, you might hear some people say, oh, well, you know, this has always worked. You know, you need to beat your kids into submission. You know, you need to spank your kids. You need to be the helicopter parent, and you have to yell at your kids, and then they'll get it. And guess what? My kids turned out great. Really? Did they turn out great? You know, and I don't think anybody's ever going to turn out great, no matter how you grow up. I don't think anybody's going to ever have a perfect life. I don't think anybody's going to ever be perfect. I don't think that we're going to ever live in this utopia where every single person is getting along with each other, or there's no violence, there's no hatred, there's no resentment. But at the same rate, I think we could do better. And I think what's going on in our society right now, all this turmoil that we're facing, all this political divide, and all these kids. I mean, not all of them. I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole really quick with you. Most of these kids, most of these younger kids, are not what the media are portraying them to be. They're not all these, you know, blue-haired, chaotic, rebellious, lazy, entitled kids that the media tries to paint them out to be. I don't see it in real life. I'm sorry. I might see it if I'm driving in West Hollywood or I'm driving in Santa Monica, you know, because those are pretty woke areas of Los Angeles. But it's not the majority of that generation. And what's worse about that is not only is that a false narrative, but it's a false narrative that, you know, older people are looking at and they're going, these kids, they don't know how good they have it, you know. They don't appreciate freedom. They don't appreciate, you know, the fact that we live in this free country, and you know, they have no respect. You know, they don't show any respect for their elders. Well, what kind of an example are you showing? Are you showing yourself as to these kids? You know, have you ever asked yourself those questions before? If you're a parent who is in their 50s or in their 60s or you know, in their 70s, and you have kids that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they're not doing great. They're struggling. They've got a lot of mental issues. They might be married themselves and are having a hard time keeping their marriage together. And their parents look at them and go, "What are you doing? I taught you better than that. Don't you know better?" What kind of a response is that to your kids that are struggling? And why are they having all these issues in the first place? Turns out you didn't do that great of a job as a parent. I think we need to listen more. I think that the growing never stops. It's not like you reach 25 and you go, "Hey, you know what? I have it all figured out, and I'll have it all figured out for the rest of my life." You're not going to get there. You're definitely not going to be there at 25, and you're not going to be there at 30. You're not going to be there at 35. You're not going to be there at 40. It's a consistent journey of self-development and improvement, and you're always evolving. That's how the human condition works. You always want to strive to become better. You never want to become set in your own ways. And believe me, I know. It's a lot easier to be set in your own ways when you don't trust anybody. When you don't trust anybody well enough to listen to them or to listen to their advice, or to make the distinction between people that want to use you and people that genuinely have your best interests at heart, that want to see you do better. It's really hard to differ. It's really hard to make the comparison if you don't trust anybody, if you're set in your own ways because you've never been loved. And that's a big problem in our society right now, is that how many people have actually really ever truly been loved? And how many people are fearful as a result of that? How many people are untrusting? They always have their guard up. They're always closed off. They always get defensive whenever you criticize them, me included. Whenever you criticize us, whenever whenever we get out of line, we're never wrong. Because to come to the conclusion that you're wrong and that maybe you've been wrong this whole time takes courage. It takes courage to do that. It takes courage to own up to who you are, own up to all of your mistakes. But most people don't do that because people live in this constant state of fear. We live in this constant state of fight or flight. We live in this constant state of the world is out to get me. The world is against me. Nobody loves me. There's nobody that will ever accept me for who I am. There is nobody that will ever truly love me unconditionally. And that's just not the truth. Just because most people won't do that for you, it doesn't mean that you won't find at least 4 or 5 people that that will not only be happy to do that for you, but they can't wait to be in your life, and they can't wait to go on this journey with you. And those 4 or 5 people may or may not be your family. They may or may not be people that you once knew, like people that maybe you met when you were young, when you were in college, when you were in high school. Because I say this a lot, family isn't blood. Family is the people that you find that share your values and that love you, that love your sense of humor, that love your cadence. They love the fact that you care about other people. They like that you're your own person. They like that you're not a carbon copy of someone else. They like that you go against the grain. You don't conform to the pattern of our society. When Jesus talks about not conforming to the world, he doesn't mean to just be a complete callous, robotic individual that just they just do what they're told. That's not what he means by that. What he means by not conforming to the pattern of this world is to stand out. It means to go against the mold. It means to be who. It means to just be who you are. It means to let your freak flag fly. That's what that statement means. But we can't get better as a society if we don't have love. Now, I don't mean to sound like Lex Friedman over here. I think it would be better if we were just more loving, if the whole world loved each other. No, that's not what I'm doing here. I mean that is true. And we're not going to make any progress being hateful and being divisive and having resentment, even towards the people that hurt you the most, even towards the people that don't like you, even your parents. That's really hard to do. Most of us just want to move on. We just want to lick our wounds. We just want to start fresh. We want to wipe the slate clean. And we just want to try and get better on our own without any help. Because people aren't, for the most part, people aren't that helpful. They might come across that way because they're trying to be a martyr. They're trying to look like they're the shit around in front of their friends, in front of their family. Oh, look what I'm doing. I'm taking care of this guy. I'm housing him. I'm feeding him. I'm giving him money. You know, that's really all that is. It has nothing to do with the person that you're helping, right? If you truly want to help somebody, what do? You sit down and you listen to them. You don't give them marching orders, right? You don't write down a whole list of do's or don'ts from your point of view, right? You listen to them. You get to know them, and you do that because you genuinely feel love in your heart for this person. That's what real love is. It's not projecting your own ideals. It's not creating this different version of this person in your head and then trying to dictate and trying to control them and mold them into this person that you want them to be. No, you want to sit down and you want to listen to them. And maybe they are on a very destructive path. Maybe they're making a lot of bad decisions. Well, how do you help somebody understand and realize all the collateral damage that they've left in their path if you're harshly criticizing them and you're harshly judging them right out the gate? That has been proven not to work. I don't think I've seen anybody get better as a result of that. There's a lot of veterans, and I mean a lot. It's not a small number of them that went to boot camp and had some grown man screaming at them and telling them, you know, and not just screaming at them and being militant, but they're calling them names and they're, I mean, what's that movie with, oh man, there's this guy who, he's an ex-army guy, Arlie Ermy, that movie that he did. I'm trying to remember, it's Full Metal Jacket. That's the name of the movie, Full Metal Jacket. That movie is based on true events because Arlie Ermy actually he served and he actually had that happen to him. And a lot of guys, you know, they leave. It's funny how the narrative has always been, you know, hey, if you go join the military, you know, and you get on their GI Bill, they'll pay for your school, they'll pay for, you know, your housing, and then you'll get out and you're going to become this very disciplined, tough, thick-skinned individual. That's not always the case. Now, I have tremendous amounts of respect for people that joined, people that served, people that made the sacrifice to serve our country. But there's a lot of people that walk away from that just really mentally screwed up. Their marriages are suffering. They're usually divorced. They don't have a good relationship with their kids. They're having nightmares. Um, they're having to be prescribed certain medications, because if they don't take those medications, um, they are just going to, they're going to lose it. There's a lot of bipolar diagnoses. There's a lot of schizophrenic diagnoses. And if you ask those guys, they'll tell you the war didn't really, seeing people getting blown up, seeing their friends getting blown up in the battlefield, having IEDs going off, seeing little children getting blown up or shot or stabbed. That's not what does it for them. What does it for them is the way that they're being brought up in the military. And thinking that they're gonna just be able to carry that out into the real world and live in the real world in like the real world's terms. But that doesn't happen, because when you're in there, you're part of a brotherhood of guys that, they literally are your brothers. You know, like, those guys still keep in contact with their fellow Rangers. You know, like 20 or 30 years after like first getting to know them. But it's the fact that when they do go out into the real world, they find that the real world isn't like the military. The real world is cruel. People are selfish. There's no real community anywhere. And then come to find out that the war that you were involved in actually wasn't for a good cause. That has to really tear you apart. I can't even imagine what some of those guys are going through right now. And some people have said, those knuckle dragging, bro vets, they're just apathetic. They don't care. They're too aggressive. And no, there's actually a lot going on that they need to get help for, and that our government has done a horrible job at providing those resources to them. You're seeing a lot of vets struggling in their marriages. They're struggling with bipolar, schizophrenia. They're homeless, some of them. They're living in tents. They're sleeping on the sidewalk. They're in homeless shelters. And it's because we live in a loveless society. And everything that we do, everything that we try to do, any relationship that we try to maintain, we get scared. That's all it really comes down to, is that most of our society is scared shitless right now. Most of our society is not taking risks. They're not letting themselves be known. They're not accepting themselves for who they really are. So you might think that love and fear are very polar opposites of each other, and they're not. If you can't figure out a way to love or to show someone the proper amount of love and care, well, guess what? Now you've just raised very fearful individuals. You know, love provides security. How do you feel when knowing that your wife or your husband or your children or your parents love you unconditionally and want the best for you and will support you no matter what, 100%, just as long as you're not committing murder or stealing or cheating on your spouse? How does that make you feel to know that you have a support system like that? How does that make you feel inside of your heart? Well, you feel great, right? You feel strong. You feel like you're ready to just grab life by the balls and create a name for yourself. You feel like you're ready to take on the world. Because what do you really have to be afraid of when you have people in your life that love you, even though the outside world could care less about you? Now, it may be that way at the beginning. You might grow up in a very loving household. You grow up and then you go out into the real world, and it's almost like a culture shock. It feels almost as though like that your parents brought you up in a very loving manner, and they taught you that you can be anything that you want. We love you and support you 100%. Only to find out that when you get your first job, no, actually your boss doesn't really like you that much, or your coworkers don't like you. Well, as long as you have a loving spirit, that's going to translate into other people's lives. If people see that, then they go, oh, you know, I wonder why this guy Matt is so nice. I wonder why he's always in a good mood. Why is he always so cordial? Why does he have such a great personality? I want to be like him. Instead of reacting out of fear, if you ever try to become like me, who's nice, who's friendly, who's caring, that other people are going to look at you and they're going to think, what's going on with this weirdo? Why is he acting so nice? Why is he acting so friendly? You know, again, it's a fear response. It's a trauma response. You know, there's this quote by Tony Robbins. It's from this audiobook that he did like 20 years ago. And it goes something like this, that people will do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. Why subject yourself to any hardship or any scrutiny if you know that it's going to bring you pain? Why go out and prospect or make cold calls if you know in your heart that people are going to say no, or that people are going to reject you? Why would you ever do something like that? Well, you're right. Why would you? Because that's all you've ever really known your whole life. The reason I think that most people do not want to participate in struggle or in pain is because they've had too much of that in their own life. But then again, maybe they didn't have a choice. Maybe because they didn't have the strong support system, because they've had to make their own mark. They've had to fend for themselves. They've really had no choice but to go through the struggle, go through the pain, and then make it out on, and be on the complete other side of that as a victor, as a winner. And those are great stories. It just shows you that anything is possible. It shows you that whatever you put your mind to, no matter what your situation is, no matter how you grew up, you can do anything that you want to do. But there's also a caveat to that, which is that you may have everything that you've always wanted. You may be strong, you may be capable, but deep down inside of you, there's still this emptiness. There's still this broken piece. And the only way to revive that is to be open, to love, and being willing to show love. And don't worry about what the outcome's going to be. I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you guys. This episode has been on the back burner for weeks. And it's because it's something that I have a really hard time with. I'm just going to be real with you guys. I'm a very fearful guy. I'm afraid. I'm terrified. And I get scared of other people. I'm going to be honest with you. I still have a really hard time accepting love and giving love. I'm not going to just sit here and lie to you and say that I'm the most loving person, or that I'm great at it, because I'm not. I suck. I suck. I think it's important for anybody listening right now to understand that if you're struggling right now, If you grew up either not being loved by your parents or never knowing your parents, and now you have this very twisted, convoluted idea of what love is. And you have a really hard time forming relationships or maintaining relationships. Just know that you're not alone, and just know that a lot of it could be due to fear. I think you're scared right now. I think you're terrified. I think that you're afraid to take initiative. I think that you're afraid to take risks. I think that you're afraid to just let yourself come out. Be true to who you are. You know, if you're like me and you're struggling with that right now, maybe you should ask yourself, what's the first thing that I need to do? Well, to start, I think that you should take a seat, lay low, take a few minutes. If you're stressed out or if you're burnt out, take some time to recoup and to get rid of like any kind of junk or any kind of baggage that's holding you back from your true potential. I think you need to just pause. I think that you either need to put your phone away, shut it off, meditate, pray, take a walk, and ask yourself, who is Matt Knight? Or who is Mark? Who is Jessica? Who is John? Really ask yourself. Because even if you don't come from love, or if you don't know what love is, just know that you can become that. That you can create that. You can create it out of thin air. And then whoever shows up in your life, whether it be a friend or whether it be a coworker, whether it be a partner or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, maybe it's like your own kids. Whoever shows up in your life, you will be able to love them and care about them in ways that they've never felt before. But it starts with one person, just one. Just because we've lived in this world of confusion, chaos, hate. It doesn't mean that we have to keep carrying on this pattern. It doesn't mean that we can't change it. It doesn't mean that we can't break the cycle. It starts with you, and it starts with me too. I have a long way to go. I've got a lot of issues. And when I say I've got a lot of issues, I mean I have got a lot of issues. I may need to be in therapy for 40 years. But we're all human beings at the end of the day. None of us are incapable. None of us are immune to hurt, depression, loneliness. Why don't we all just be honest about where we are? Why don't we just tune everything out? Let's block out all the noise. You don't have to go out on the weekends. You don't have to go to parties just because you can't deal with your own internal dialogue. Or you need other people's voices to silence your own voice. Because that's what you're doing when you're out partying or surrounding yourself with other people because you don't want to listen to yourself and you don't want to look at yourself in the mirror. It's probably because of fear. Not probably, it is because of fear. You're afraid to face yourself. You're afraid to ask yourself tough questions. You're afraid of real accountability. Not just accountability from real friends. I'm not talking about acquaintances. I'm not talking about fair weather friends. I'm talking about people in your life that are there because they want to hold your feet to the fire, because they love you and they want the best for you. But maybe you didn't have that when you were growing up, because your parents were supposed to set the standard for you. They were supposed to guide you. They were supposed to love you as their own children. And children are no joke. You know, whatever you show them between the ages of 6 to 14 years old, they're going to carry that with them for the rest of their life. It's not like you just, you know, it's not like I'm trying really hard not to give parental advice here. I don't think that's appropriate. But like, let's just say you grew up like that, where whatever you saw from your parents is how you're going to carry yourself when you become an adult, right? Because when you looked at that when you were a kid, you probably went, well, this is how normal adults behave. This is how normal adults conduct themselves. This is how normal adults love each other. Yeah, they love each other so much that they're fighting almost every day, right? There's always conflict, there's always resentment. Yeah, that's true love. No, if you grew up in an environment like that, just know that it had nothing to do with you. You're your own person. It has nothing to do with you. Much like it had nothing to do with me. But every decision that you make after you become an adult, it has everything to do with you. Your decisions, whatever choice you make, affects other people. Whether it's a good choice or if it's a bad choice. But I think that love is the answer. And I know that sounds cliche. I know that sounds like some, fruity, utopian Disney quote. But it really is. Love is the only thing that can really break the cycle of all this dysfunction and turmoil and divide. It'll wipe it clean immediately. But we have to make the first step, and we have to act, and we have to take initiative, and we have to be bold. We have to be courageous about it. I've been doing these videos now for almost a decade, and a lot of people have made channels. A lot of people have created podcasts, which is great. It seems like everybody and their brother now has a podcast, but still, I'm still not seeing enough people stand up and say something. I'm still not seeing a whole lot of people voicing what they believe to be trite and true, what they believe to be wrong. I still see people and their social medias, and they're posting happy pictures or happy reels or happy lives of how great their life is. Look at how great my life is back here. Look at how happy my family is. And that's all they'll ever show you. They will show you, if you have, if you run your business online, that's all you really should, which I totally understand too. You gotta learn to separate business from your own personal life, but I think it's important too to become real and to be authentic. Tell your story. Present your testimony. And do it in a real and genuine way. But it takes courage. And to be honest, eight years in, I'm still scared. This still freaks me out. I'm always worried about backlash. I'm always worried about, people. And it's not just people. It's like people that I once knew. It's like people in my family. What are they going to think of this? What are like what criticisms or judgments do they have about what I just said here? What if I stutter? or what if I pause for long periods of time? What if I start to get really nervous? What if my hands start to shake and get out of control like this because I'm just so nervous and terrified? It still happens to me. But I'm still here. I'm still doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing this for another decade. But trust me, guys, I'm just as scared as anybody. I don't claim to be this, fearless, grabbing life by the balls, macho man or anything like that. Because that's not who I am. I'm a very sensitive soul. I care a lot, maybe too much. And I feel people's energies. And I don't like seeing other people in pain. I don't like seeing other people get hurt. Even I talk about wanting to have kids, but I'll be in a grocery store sometimes and I'll hear a little kid crying or screaming, and that child might just be throwing another hissy fit because they're not getting their way. But that bothers me. Like, I'm still hearing a child, like a little baby crying. Like, my body can't tell the difference between a child that's crying because they're not getting their way, or a child that's crying because they're being mistreated. Like my sensitivity can't tell the difference. And so whenever I hear a baby or a child crying in the store, it hits me. It really hurts me. I have to get away from that, because I don't like seeing other people hurt. And whenever I'm the one inflicting, whenever I'm the one hurting somebody, either intentionally or unintentionally, that, sometimes it feels good for me in the moment, but it doesn't last that long. I feel like complete and utter, I feel like complete dog shit, if I'm being honest with you guys. But again, it's that love response, as opposed to just having a fight or flight. You better act now, otherwise, or it's best just to leave that alone. Let's not cause any issues. Let's not rock the boat. That's not good either. So I think the middle ground here is we need to love properly. We need to listen to people. We need to be there for people. We need to bring back real life communication, minus the social media, the Facebook, the DMs, the text messaging. I think we are headed for that, but I think that we need to start to divorce ourselves from that as soon as possible, because I've seen what it's done for our society personally. I've seen how many people are struggling, and well, looks like we're almost out of time here. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this. Sorry guys, I don't know where the time went, but I want to go ahead and read out of John 4:18. Oh, I guess not. I guess we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. So.